and it requires specialized lab processing.
It really does.
You can't just walk into a local urgent care in Baltimore and ask for Western blot. They won't do it. Clinically, it is usually only utilized as a confirmatory backup test if your initial ELISA comes back with a low positive index value, usually a score between 1.1 and 3.5.
Which means, practically speaking, the vast majority of the population and the vast majority of the sex work industry relies entirely on the flawed ELISA test.
Unbelievable.
If we connect this diagnostic reality back to the bigger epidemiological picture, it explains everything. This massive testing gap, the mandatory 3-month blind spot, combined with a 17% false negative rate in urban centers, is precisely why the community prevalence remains so astonishingly high at 82.8%.
It's a systemic failure.
The testing infrastructure we rely on is simply not designed mathematically or biologically to catch active, spreading infections in real time.
Wow. We have covered an incredible amount of ground today, and we really need to try and summarize this journey. We started with the deceptive, comforting illusion of per-act risk.
We did.
We imagined rolling that 1,000-sided die, picking that one red marble, and thinking we were mathematically safe, only to realize that the biological reality of asymptomatic shedding means the die is loaded against us.
And from there, we move through the stark demographic realities. We confronted the staggering 82.8% prevalence rate in older, non-Hispanic Black females in the Baltimore study, which fundamentally proved that community viral load, the saturation of the specific mating pool you choose to interact with, is the true arbiter of your risk.
We looked at the geographical map, contrasting that intense, localized inner-city saturation with the lower risk, 32.6% microclimate, of the out-of-state traveler pool at BWI. We uncovered the massive, totally hidden danger of oral HSV-1, learning that the intuitive, safe route of receiving oral sex from a cold sore carrier actually puts you on a terrifying 11-month countdown to a 50-50 risk of a genital infection.
And we concluded by stripping away the false comfort of diagnostics, realizing that the only way to genuinely know your viral status involves an economically impossible 3-month vow of celibacy while relying on clinic tests that can miss nearly a fifth of active infections in urban centers.
So, to you, the listener, what is the ultimate takeaway from this deep dive into probability? It is the realization that statistics are incredibly powerful, but they are only a map. They are not the territory you walk on.
That's a great way to put it.
The data clearly shows that your risk profile isn't just about what specific sex act you engage in. Your risk is fundamentally dictated by where you are geographically, who you are seeing demographically, and the prolonged timeline over which you choose to roll the die.
Right.
Condoms and daily suppressive antivirals are incredible, vital tools. They buy you significant mathematical time. But in high-prevalence pools, where the environment itself is saturated with the virus, time ultimately inevitably favors the pathogen.
It is a profound lesson in humility when facing the sheer mathematical persistence of epidemiology.
It absolutely is. And as we close out today's deep dive, we want to leave you with one final, lingering thought to mull over, something that builds on every single piece of data we've unpacked today.
If the biological reality is that 87.4% of people have no idea they carry this virus, and the diagnostic reality is that the standard accessible ELISA test can completely miss up to 17% of true infections in urban clinics, are we essentially fighting a major public health battle wearing a permanent blindfold?
Think about the implications of that. We have the hard data. We see the 82.8% prevalence saturating these communities. Yet, standard national medical guidelines still explicitly do not recommend routine serological blood screening for HSV-2 for the general public.
They don't.
They tell doctors not to test for it unless there are physical symptoms. Is the medical system actually built to prevent the spread of this virus? Or is it mathematically designed to just ignore the asymptomatic spread until the blisters finally show up?
This raises a deeply uncomfortable question about exactly what public health systems are choosing to measure and what they are choosing to ignore.